Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith. And I had, many of you might know that I had worked at WLRN TV for over 35 years. And I think back sometimes of all the programs that I did and that I was lucky enough to do. And one person has just stood out in my mind. And I decided I am going to contact them and see if I can have the opportunity to interview this amazing woman again. She is Virginia Jacko, and she's the president of and CEO of the Miami Lighthouse for the Blind. And the work that she has done is just phenomenal. I remember spending quite a few days at the Miami Lighthouse, and I think that you almost have to go there and experience what it is that she has done over the years to, as they say, truly transform the lives of countless people, young and old, who have had blindness, either born with blindness or it happened to them later in life. But what she's done is she's basically changed the lives of probably anyone who's ever set foot in the Miami Lighthouse for the Blind and participated in the many classes. So Virginia, I am really thrilled that you said yes. I know you're very busy. And maybe just for those who don't know your story, I know a lot of people do, but can you take us back to was over 25 years that you were a financial leader with a university, Purdue University. You had this really fantastic job. Life was going well. Everything was, good in your life. And then I guess that you received some news, which did change your life. So maybe just share a little bit about, your story and what happened, and then we'll go from there.
I was a successful executive at Purdue University, working every day with the president and the provost, with all of the administrative unit business officers reporting to me. And I was starting to feel like maybe the print on the pages just didn't seem as crisp. It seemed like, if there was such a thing back then, the ribbons weren't being changed frequently in the mainstream computing. So this goes back a bit, where we had mainframe computing. And I said to my assistant, you gotta tell those guys in mainframe computing that they gotta change their ribbons more often. And she says to me, Virginia, did you ever think to maybe get your eyes tested? And I thought, that couldn't be me. So, it was before we had our own printers, with everybody having a printer in their office. I went to the eye doctor. And the eye doctor said, everything seems okay, but maybe you should go to the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute in Miami. And to fast forward, in that visit, I was told, you have an eye disease that will lead to total blindness. And what do we tend to do when we, hear something that's bad news? I called my mother, a very stoic nurse, a dean of nursing. I said, Mother, I got my diagnosis. I could go totally blind. My mother's response was, well, then I'm just going to pray that you do big things for the blind. I say, Mother, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know any blind people. She said, I will pray and you will. That is the only time my mother and I ever discussed my vision loss. Imagine, I will pray and you will. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. But at the time, my daughter was an engineering professor at FIU, and she received, under the Clinton administration, a Presidential Career Award because she would see me struggling with the monitor and saying things like, I only wish we could change the color contrast. I wish I could move these icons around. So she developed a relationship at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute in the area of human-computer interaction, and went to the Miami Lighthouse for her human subjects and said to me, Mom, if you would relocate to Miami, if you would go to the Miami Lighthouse for the blind, you would be using a computer better than you are today. You would be doing so much. And you know what I said to her? Yeah, whatever. Think about that. Oh, yeah, whatever. Wow.
Well, was your mother, I mean, your mother and your daughter both knew somehow, I mean, it's almost like they both had some kind of a premonition, you know, into your future that you were going to do big things. They didn't fall apart or, you know, feel like life was over for you. I mean, that's what I'm getting from, you know, what I'm hearing. And this I never heard before. So I'm wondering, was it just something that they both just had a sense, knowing the kind of person you were, that you were going to do, as they said, big things in your life? So did that help you, you know, cope with it?
People ask me, were you ever depressed? How did you cope? Because I'm the kind of person that has to get busy. I got to get with it. I got to do it. And I say, you know, maybe later in life, whenever that comes, that's when I'm going to get depressed. I knew that I needed to do something about it. My daughter more or less vetted Miami Lighthouse. So I made the decision that I needed to wrap up at the end of the semester in December, all of the president's budget meetings, and take a 3-month leave. So I got in touch with Miami Lighthouse, and you know, my last day at work there, which I thought was just the beginning of a 3-month leave, I came to the Miami Lighthouse beginning January 3rd of 2001 every day, learning, you know, how do I do my hair? How do I do my makeup? How do I put my lipstick on to make sure it's not smeared all over? How do I have better mobility skills? How do I use a computer? And back then it was still keystroke commands. And I was great at Word Star, Word Perfect. And I learned just stop, point, and clicking and use all these keystroke commands created by an engineer that was blinded in a hydroplane accident. And using those keystroke commands, you can ask the monitor whatever you want to know, what, you know, read all, go to the internet, but have an Excel spreadsheet, you know, arrow down, read what's in every cell. You know, I do all of my own emails, all of our grant proposals, I write all of them. It was that 3-month period where a bus would pick me up. I'd walk in the doors here at Miami Lighthouse, and I'd go to class. I'd go to my Braille class, my independent living class, my mobility class. And the other thing that I recall so fondly, because all of the clients were blind, and at lunchtime, one day, wherever I ended up seated, I might be with all African Americans. Another day, I was kind of like with the ladies from North Miami, the Jewish ladies conversation. Another day, I might be with people that only speak Spanish. And I would say to myself, with blindness, it's so inclusive. And we all have something in common. And the more we would talk at lunchtime, the more with everybody, we all had something in common. And that caught my interest. So at the end of my 3-month program, they said, you'd be great with a guide dog. We never had any dogs in our home. I'm embarrassed to say, my response was to my orientation mobility teacher, shame on me. I said, we've never had dogs. I don't even know if I like dogs. Shame on me. I
Huh.
had no idea. So it was the end of my 3-month medical leave, and they suggested I go to New York to Guiding Eyes for the Blind. I went there for a month, and I learned how to work with a guide dog. I now have had 4 guide dogs that give me my mobility. What a gift. I had no idea what a gift it would be to be a client at Miami Lighthouse, to regain my independence.
So there was no feeling, I mean, it's like you almost were entering a new life,
A new
and it had
journey.
all kinds of gifts for you. You know, it wasn't like a new life and oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? It seems like everything that one needs in life, you know, mobility or could use in life, let's say friendship, you began to connect with people in ways maybe that you hadn't before, even though you were very connected, you know, as an executive and everything. So it's almost as if, I don't know, sometimes I feel like when things happen to us, and this is actually part of the Brahma Kumari's teachings, there's benefit to it, you know, that we're able to look at, or we try to look at, what's the benefit here? There's something that we needed to learn that we didn't get before. Was there that feeling like this is a new world, but it's a good world? It's going to be a good world?
I always say it was a new journey with
Yeah.
a new sense of purpose.
Mm,
And that sense of purpose, of course, changes as we travel that journey of life.
yeah.
And it might sound a little hokey, but I really do believe that we all have purpose. And if we find that purpose, we're just taking that complete journey for the next life.
Very interesting, because that is really a spiritual principle and you grasp it very quickly. And not only did you, another, you know, important thing that I think to bring up is that not only did you learn, you know, to cope or to overcome, you know, what happened to you, you took it on as a mission to help so many others. And so I want you to share some of the things that you have accomplished over many years. And there, it's really pretty astonishing what you've done at the Miami Lighthouse.
I fell in love with Miami. And when I finished my program here at the Miami Lighthouse, I said, I have to spend the rest of my life helping the blind, and the best way to do it is here in Miami.
Mm.
So I began giving speeches to different entities in Miami. I was invited to join the board of directors. Then I was invited to be treasurer of the board. I
Whoa,
called that same daughter and I said, Julie,
whoa.
they're asking me to be treasurer of the board. If only I had my eyesight, I'd be the best treasurer they ever had. And she said, Mom, if they believe in you, you had better believe in yourself. What is all that training you got? You learned how to read an Excel spreadsheet. You just tell them how you want the information to be accessible based on what you learned. And don't you dare say no. So I didn't say no, I said yes. And then maybe a quarter of the year later, the CEO made the decision to very quickly announce that she was moving on. So the board began a national search. And God bless Donna Blaustein, the chairman of the board, said, Virginia, if you're not going to go back to Purdue, your 3 months leave ended, would you consider being a pro bono volunteer CEO? You know, a day became a week became a month became 2 months. This was in February of 2005. In the beginning of June in 2005, I was asked by the board, do you mind getting us 2 references? We are thinking of halting the national search. I was so blessed that I had a letter from the president of Purdue University, a letter from the provost of Purdue University, because those letters demonstrated to the board that it would be okay to hire their first totally blind president and CEO. So that was the beginning at that late June board meeting when the Miami Lighthouse announced that Virginia Jacko would begin serving as president and CEO. At that time, Miami Lighthouse was serving not quite 500 program participants. This past 12-month period, we served 24,800 program participants. That is a 50-fold, 50 times more clients. So we've grown a lot. At that time, it was a 2-story building with an attic on the 3rd floor. I launched an amazing music program with the help of Henry Stone, who had become a client of Miami Lighthouse, who had 32 gold and platinum labels. And Meredith, that's when we got to know each other. And we were performing in this attic. And guess what? The fire marshal didn't like that. So I went to Agustin Ariano, a well-known Cuban contractor. He was on our board, and it said, how much would it cost to finish this 3rd floor? He said, Virginia, $75,000. Done. Let's get this 3rd floor finished. Let's create a music studio. And then a few years later, I said, let's add a 4th floor. And then in 2015, I said, we need to have a school for the blind. So we began buying a property here in the neighborhood of 601 Southwest 8th Avenue. And we bought up more property, and we now own this entire block for our entire Miami Lighthouse campus, where we have a school for early learners. We call it the Miami Lighthouse Academy for children ages 1 through 2nd grade. And I am so proud to say that our 2nd grade class of a year ago, this past June, all moved on to their local school, their community public school at grade level. Maybe they were reading Braille, maybe they were reading large print, but they all were performing at grade level. When I began, the net operating budget of Miami Lighthouse was $2 million a year. Our current operating budget is $12 million a year. Now that requires writing a lot of grant proposals. When I began, Miami Lighthouse had 1 grant. That was with the Health Foundation of South Florida. Miami Lighthouse did not even have any of the Children's Trust funding. But we certainly worked toward getting that. And I have to say thank you to the Association for Retarded Children, ARC, because I learned that the 5-year cycle for Children's Trust funding came to an end on February 1st. And I was beginning to ask about that funding on February 10th. But because of my university experience, I asked Moa Betty, is there a funder whereby we're helping them on a subcontract? And we could expand that subcontract for our Blind Babies program. And they agreed to do that. So the way we got our first 5 years of Children's Trust funding, it was because of ARC, another nonprofit, being willing to work with the Children's Trust with the award they received so that Miami Lighthouse could have its subcontract. It was a little bit of a backdoor way. Now Miami Lighthouse has 5 Children's Trust contracts. Our music program, our Blind Babies program, our various summer camps, our parenting program, and a contract for our Heiken Children's Vision Program. We have to prevent blindness. And I learned that there were so many children that while in the schools, they did screening, like, can you see the Big E kind of screening? And when those children, especially if they were in a Title I school, failed, nothing happened.
Mm.
And I said, we've got to fix that. So we got in touch with the Dade County Optometric Association. We merged, and we created the Heiken Children's Vision Program, which is a mobile eye care program, which now is statewide. I have a fly here bothering me. Forgive me. A statewide
Swipe them away.
where
Swish them
we're bringing
away.
primary eye health care directly to the child that has failed their vision screening, bringing primary eye care to the school. And I was asked by the former Steve Marcus, head of the foundation, Virginia, how do you know those kids are wearing their glasses? I said, Steve, I don't have a clue. But if you pay for a survey, we'll get the answer. And he did that, and we learned that 94% of those children are wearing their glasses. And we said to the parent, do you have academic evidence your child is doing better in school? 79% of the parents responded, as a result of the glasses your child received, their child had on their report card academic evidence of improvement. And that's helped so many. The unmet need, though, is huge. This past year, we provided 18,000 school children throughout Florida in a Title I school, that's low-income children, a dilated eye exam. 85% required and received prescription glasses. 5% were referred for medical treatment, medical intervention. And we received 30,000 referrals.
Mm.
That's a child that failed their vision screening, met all of the requirements for our program, but we didn't have the funding. So Miami Lighthouse is getting ready to celebrate 95 years of service to people with a vision disability right here at 601 Southwest 8th Avenue. And part of that campaign is to close the gap of the unmet need, which is huge, whether it has to do with needing an eye exam, needing glasses, needing medical referral, blind babies, parenting, summer camps, teenage transition pre-employment training, our cortical visual impairment, which is a new initiative where we're collaborating with Miami-Dade Schools, Nicholas Children's Hospital, Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, Nova Southeastern, in helping children with cortical visual impairment. That is when there's been a brain injury, and with special treatment, special learning modalities, special assessments, that child, very likely, the retina is not damaged at all. More or less, you can get, in simple language, I say you can get the brain to start talking to the eye. And that is our CVI, Cortical Visual Impairment Collaborative Initiative, our newest initiative. I worry about seniors. 1 out of 4 seniors, age 75 or older, will have uncorrectable vision loss. We have an amazing Vision Solutions Center. 1 day a week, we have a low vision optometrist here, and so many devices. I say, if you're going to lose your eyesight, now's the time, because technology is so great. Something so simple as my iPhone, being able to turn my iPhone to voice over, to get a command for anything that a sighted person would see on the screen of their iPhone, to be able to use a computer with screen reading software, and the new OrCam, for which Messi is the icon here in Miami, We're
Virginia,
looking
you
good in
must feel
soccer,
so
but
fulfilled.
he's also promoting the OrCam, which
Yeah,
is a device that
sorry.
can read print in any language. It's
Wow.
like a miracle. So technology is great. And I like to say a blind person can do anything a sighted person does. They just need to learn how to do things a bit differently.
Just sitting here listening to you, Virginia, is it just makes me feel so good because it isn't just making life a little bit better for people that do lose their sight or are born with without sight. It's like you say, it's really making life normal for all of these people. And it seems to me it's like it's just never ending. You're, always working on the next project and the next project. And something that's coming up for me is it's not just you and the Lighthouse for the Blind. The whole community has come out to support you and to help you in any way that they can. And I don't feel like I've seen that so much with other organizations. So it's something where you have the trust, they trust you and they know that whatever you do is going to be really, really successful, right?
Well, there's
Um,
a
are
national
you just,
evaluator named Charity Navigator,
yeah.
and Miami Lighthouse has received a perfect score on financial stability, on the fact that only 8 cents of every dollar goes to administration.
Mm.
We want donor dollars to go to programs. So we have a very humble, very hardworking staff, and they have different pillars, like during COVID, our ability to sustain operations.
Mm.
So we see perfect scores. We rank among the top 1% nonprofits nationally on all of the parameters of Charity Navigator. And we have been doing that for the last 13 years. There isn't another nonprofit here in Miami and only one other nonprofit in Florida that has that distinction.
What is it that when someone comes in and they have just learned like you did years ago that they're either losing their sight or or they've already lost it, and I'm sure most people, maybe they're not as optimistic as you were with your family behind you. What's the first thing that you'll say to somebody about what their life is going to be like? What message do you give them?
Well, unfortunately, society has a preconceived idea of what a blind person should be like,
Mhm.
which is very wrong. So, individually, people are different, but overall, there is a tremendous fear of blindness.
Yeah.
So, when someone is able to meet a CEO that's very accomplished, and this sounds a little rude, but acts normal, whatever normal is, looks normal, isn't a stereotype. Can I do that? Because of the training I received at Miami Lighthouse. So that's very encouraging for others. Sometimes I use this expression, and I really do believe it. There is a process as you lose your eyesight to, in quotation marks, be willing to come out of the closet.
Mm.
And the sooner people that are losing their eyesight are willing to say, I am going to go to Miami Lighthouse and get that independent living skills so I'm not dependent on someone else. I want to be able to get a guide dog. I want to be able to have a job. At the same time, though, we all know what ESG is, what DEI is. Information has to be accessible. And years ago, when business was conducted in brick and mortar, you would never see a wheelchair at the base of the steps to that business, to that government building. No, we built ramps. But most business today is done through technology. But often that digital ramp does not exist. So I am a very strong advocate that website accessibility, which is so easy, should be mandatory for all businesses. What do I mean by that? Let's just say that the business is Miami Lighthouse. And we began our website with a logo of a lighthouse. That is just an image. And my software is going to say graphic, 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 and I can't go any further. But if behind that lighthouse image of the logo, it says image of a lighthouse, Miami Lighthouse for the Blind, then that text there enables that software to keep moving. That's just one example. So I am committed that when we finish training somebody for call center training, and they're ready to go out and work at a call center, but that business protocol that they're using, that proprietary software, is not accessible, I'm going to call that business on it because that's wrong. We've called society on the fact that people in wheelchairs have to have a ramp, but our society is very slow to insist that there's the digital ramp, which is accessible digital information, and it is so easy. But I believe the problem is that for the sighted world, if you see a wheelchair, a physical object, it's easier to say, I get it, than it is to understand that with software, a blind person like myself, I read all of our financial statements. I write all of our proposals. I read and write all of my emails. That's what Miami Lighthouse taught me. But sometimes I am not able to get into a certain business's website. So we created, because I have on my technology team 2 totally blind individuals that have degrees in information technology. And since 2014, we've probably audited over 300 company websites. And you're going to remember, we had the Republicans debate last night, but it wasn't that long ago that Miami hosted the debate here. And I went to every website of those individuals that were debating here in Miami. That was what, 2019, 2020? None of the websites were accessible. And to the Biden administration's credit, and many of those other candidates, their chief information officer got in touch with me. And on Inauguration Day, the New York Times had an article that whitehouse.gov was totally accessible. And I believe part of that was because of my personal annoyance that I couldn't learn anything about these candidates, and that I sent a letter to all of them, and half of them responded, and that the person that was elected president did have an accessible website for whitehouse.gov. And I'm looking forward, now that we just had a debate last night, I have a little bit of time, but I'm going to challenge those candidates again. Because while everyone talks about DEI, until they think about people with disabilities, and of course, my focus is people that have a vision disability, it is not equity and inclusion until we have equal access to digital information.
This is such an important, I mean, what you're bringing up, it's beyond important. I mean, it's a whole new way of understanding, disability, and the fact that you've just moved forward, seeing what needs to be changed and you change it. I'm assuming now that, so many people have been affected by you, people that work in this world of, with people with disabilities, that they go on. So you're affecting and inspiring more people to do this and more people to do this. And then all of a sudden, at some point, more change will occur, as it did, as you say, with the websites of the candidates. I just, I look at you and I think, God, if there were more people like Virginia in this world, change would really, really happen. But what I'm seeing in you is that it is happening. It is happening, and
It's a movement. It's a movement.
Yeah, and every movement starts with a few people, a few visionaries, and you even wrote a book, right?
Yes.
About being a visionary, the blind visionary, right? That was your book.
Yes.
And what I want to end with, just one more, because we've gone way over, and it's just so fascinating. We could go on for another hour or two. The blind visionaries was really also, it was your story along with your message to people that everybody should have a mission in life, right? That was part of the main point in your book. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Well, I created an acronym.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the word rank, R-A-N-K. And as part of defining the mission, it is you have to reach out aggressively. Mm-hmm. A, act on opportunities. N, never let fear win. K, keep things in perspective. Thank you.
Virginia, thank you. And you're beyond inspiring. I mean, you're like, I feel like something has happened in me just to sit here and listen to you. And I'm sure that every single person that comes in to the Lighthouse for the Blind after you're, spend some time with them and they see what you've accomplished and how you can help them, I would think that everybody's life is changing there, from the smallest person there, a child, to, as you say, the elderly people. I would think it's just a happy place, a joyful place. And somebody, that is one of our meditators, Lourdes, she was either working there, volunteering there, and she brought me there after I had actually done some interviews there with you and others years ago. And she was just so happy to go there. She would say, it's just the most wonderful place. It's uplifting. It's just an amazing place to be. And I think that's maybe something so important that you have done more than anything, is brought joy to a world that was probably didn't have too much joy in it. Am I right? Virginia, I just want to end with some pictures. We're going to just end with showing you, the athlete. You do a lot of athletic things. You are with the kids. We're going to see a few pictures of you in action right now. There it is. It's gotten bigger and bigger. The Miami Lighthouse for the Blind. Yeah. Just look at the joy on the faces of everybody. And there you are playing basketball, right? Virginia, I don't think there's anything that you've left out in terms of an amazing life. There you are. More sports. You're a real athlete. And you just continue. Oh, look at that. Just pure joy.
Let me tell you, we are starting, thanks to the Abraham Family Foundation, we're starting blind soccer. And our goal is that some of our players, one right now is trying out for the Paralympics to be on that team. And you're going to hear a lot more about that.
And so the excitement continues. The Miami Lighthouse.
We even have a gospel choir. So sometime if your meditation group maybe has a holiday party, it would be thrilling for me if you would invite our gospel choir.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. And I'm sure it's something that we can arrange that. I want to be like you now in one way. I could hardly be like you even for 1 second. You're just such a mover and a shaker, but to just move forward, you gave us an idea here, and to move forward and have it happen. And I'm sure it's going to happen.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, Virginia. Thank you so much. I know you are so busy, but thank you for taking the time, to just show us.
I'm enjoying it immensely. We've got a history together.
Yes, long history, really. And even some of the people you've helped Children's Trust. I've worked with them. We've worked with them in many ways over many years. So there were a lot of connections there I was listening to. Thank you so much for joining us.